Welcome to the talk today. You're here to enjoy what people from the National Trust are going to tell you, and the topic is on Clumber's notable trees from veterans to ornamental conifers. So I will leave you in the more than capable hands.
Right, thank you very much for selecting our talk. My name is Gareth Jones, Countryside Manager for Clumber Park in Nottinghamshire. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Lewis Wright, one of the area rangers at Clumber.
I'm Gareth, I'm the ranger.
And we're doing it as a tag team. So first bit is me about the historic landscape of Clumber, what it is today. Lewis is doing a bit about wood pasture and work to recreate wood pasture, and carries about veteranisation. Next slide, please. So, Clumber, and that's an old artist drawing a Clumber, which is in an art gallery in Sheffield. So historically, Clumber is the most wooded it's ever been in its history. Due to the landscape we've got now, a third of Clumber is leased to the Forest Commission, which was done in 1946. And scrub has encroached from woodlands onto heathlands, acid grassland, and a bit of farmland. We have over 220 different species of tree. More on that later. The 7th Duke was an avid tree collector, and a lot of the species that we've got and a lot of the historic plantings are around 1880-ish, 1910. The park has many layers of design landscape over the time since its enclosure in 1707. So there's not one specific landscape designer that we've had. We've had apprentices of Capability Brown and various others that have created layers on top of layers. So picking the historical context is a bit interesting. Currently, Clumber is the most visited National Trust paid for entry site in the country. We had 720,000 visitors last year. We're a Grade 1 registered park and garden, which covers the entire site, which is 1,546 hectares. But it also includes Thoresby Estate to the south of us as well. So it's a big chunk. And when you look at the registered parks and gardens, it's probably the biggest combined block in the East Midlands. Clumber, a third of it is a site of special scientific interest. So that's covering woodlands, the lake, the heathland, the acid grassland, and it's a mosaic of different habitats we've got. And we don't know what's out there. We keep on finding new things. So about 8-10 years ago, a survey team from Sheffield, from Sorby, found a new species of truffle on Limeshire Avenue under some leaf litter. We had an extinct spider found in 2017 called the diamond spider on the heathland, last seen in 1966 in Ashdown Forest. And we've got various deadwood invertebrates which got very long Latin names that I will not try and pronounce. So, Clumber, like I mentioned, it was closed in 1709. The map on the right hand side of the screen is the pre-enclosure, 1709. You can see how wooded the landscape of Clumber was. There was 2 woodlands and a few birch and alder down through the river. If you know Clumber today, that is roughly the central bit of Clumber. So no road network, no car parks, no National Trust tea room, no gift shop. The 2 fragments of woodland are still called Clumber Road Wood and Hardwick Wood, but the context that they were in 1709 has long gone. The conifer plantations, a bit of a few fragments of old oaks. After the enclosure, the park was used as a hunting estate and stocked with red deer. And from 1770, the landscape changed with the removal of scrub and the land prepared for planting and estate use, farming and agriculture. There was sheep and cattle grazing. A major tree planting began with English oak, beech and sweet chestnut by the second Duke of Newcastle. And around this time, which was 1780, the lake got constructed, which was a 90-acre lake, and the park began to shape as what it is today. So again, two maps, 1830 map, getting more wooded and ornamental trees, and the one on the right hand side is the first edition OS map. So the context of Clumber's being to shape, the lake's being dug, we've got the house, walled garden, and we've got the historic clumps of woodland. Clumber Old Wood and Hardwick Wood is still there, and we're starting to get some interesting shapes and landscape features coming onto the park. So with it being an old estate, timber was used as management, and on the estate there was a joinery workshop, carpenter shop and a woods team. So active woodland management was happening right from the early days of the Duke. And this is the carpenter shop with lots of young apprentices making all the estate furniture and stuff to go into the house, and a lot of the woodwork that's around the park. Next slide. So during the 18th and 19th centuries, avenues began to be planted to formalise those roads, entrances in, but also with land boundaries. The Duke had a mausoleum at Milton, so near Elksley, and a chestnut avenue was planted from Clumber right across to Milton. We've got an avenue of cedars, and the most famous one that we've got is Lime Tree Avenue, planted in the 1820s, with just under 2,000 trees planted in that avenue, which forms the longest double row of limes in Europe. It has recently given us some management headaches, so it's a formal avenue planted as a landscape architectural feature. Conservation wise, it's extremely important. The trees are 200 years old. They've got another 400 or 500 years old to live. But if you've been to visit Clumber, up until fairly recently, cars were parked underneath the avenue, compressing tree roots, leading to soil erosion. And they put in these wooden bollards to help protect the trees, to minimise the root damage. But the road that it surrounds is a public road, a 40 mile an hour public road, and tree safety is paramount. So again, how we look at veteran tree features in the future versus public safety is an interesting one. Ideally, we'll close the road off, but we can't, and they can live gracefully evermore. A lot of our work is not just what we want to do. We had a parkland conservation plan, so each of these three documents is about the size of yellow pages, or road yellow pages, about that thick. It was created in 2014 with Natural England, Historic England, Forestry Commission, local council and other partners to look into what year we ought to restore the park to. It covers our aspirations to look after Clumber, so it's there forever for everyone. Part of the plan looked at breeding bird surveys, veteran tree conditions, SSI reports, loads of stuff it covered. We had a LiDAR survey for the old archaeological features. Next slide, please. And that's just a excerpt of the veteran and notable trees. So there's about 100 pages like this. With having such a variety of historic and heritage trees, we need to map them, and we've got some data already, but one of the big aims over the next 2 or 3 years is to get them all tagged and GPSed. So we've got a full data set of where all the trees are. Next slide. So those 220 different species of tree, we've got a nice palette that gives us future proofing for climate change. We have the Dukes gave us a head start of knowing what trees grow well on Clumber and on the sand that we're on. So we've got seven species of birch, 8 species of lime, we've got a pine Eaton that's got 20 or 30 different species of conifers in there. We've got the pleasure grounds that's got another 30 to 50 species in there. And we've got 13 species of oak, including a purple English oak, which is a short stubby tree that don't seem to grow very well. But it's given us an excellent palette of what we've got and can grow in our conditions. Climate change for Clumber. So over the next 100 years, we're expecting the temperatures to rise between 2 and 4 degrees. Again, it's the habitats of Clumber and the visitors who are at high risk of wildfire, and making sure that the stuff we do today can survive for future generations. That's me done.
Over to me. So, as Gareth was saying about the park being more wooded than it ever has been, it unfortunately meant that all of those ducal plantings that we saw on the map have been lost in secondary woodland over time and overshadowed. So, a big part of this next 5 years is us going back to our wood pasture roots. So, wood pasture for Clumber is a mixture. It's basically bleeding from our woodland all the way to our heathland and everything in between. So that is our sort of rough idyllic view of what we would love Clumber to get to. So it's our lowland wood pasture, so it's a mixture of our heathland, eventually all the way down to our lake. We've got the big old veterans in there, as well as the successional plantings. So at the moment, we don't have anything to replace our big parkland trees. Once they're gone, there's nothing to bridge that gap. So it's about getting them in place, ready to replace them. So at the moment, one of our big sections is on the map right now, which is our wood pasture restoration at South Lodge. It's going to be around 80% thinning works to get this back to what we want, which sounds really, really severe and destructive, thinking 20% canopy cover left. But we did a small area 2 years ago. That was it last year after it had recovered. And then the next 2 is this winter's work. So before and after, you can just about see the Scots pines left on the right-hand side. This still isn't down to its final reduction. We're very conscious of shocking visitors with what we've done, as well as shocking the veteran and ancient trees that are still in that area. So it's about managing their release at the same time. So in this picture here, you can already see the bluebell seed banks coming back up as well. So we're starting to see what we want. It's just about managing that. So the next couple of years, we'll be getting that area into grazing. So rather than do the full wood pasture restoration in one block and then hope the cows can manage it, we're going to be bringing areas online slowly and then joining them up all at the end so that they have time to keep that vegetation down. But there's quite a lot of trees as we're going in there and doing the work. We've realised we've lost the parkland trees already. We're finding either stumps, so they've been cut down previously, or they're already dead, which means that in that area we can go through and go, okay, well, that was an oak, so we'll look for the next nearest oak. If that's already got features, we'll select that for saving, so we don't have to plant. We've already got that natural stock from probably the same genetic match as the original trees to bring them back online. Might not match the historic views, but it's close enough that we get the same effect.
Right, so as these guys have said, we're quite lucky at Clumber to have so many ancient and veteran trees. We have the same problem as a lot of places though, that there is 150 year gap between our best veteran trees and the next generation's ready to take over. So basically what happened was World War II, and just after, across the country, there was quite large felling works that timber was in quite high demand. And basically most mature trees and semi-mature got cut down for that, for commercial timber. So now we have these great habitats that you get with veteran trees. Sorry, I'm going to refer to veteran features for the rest of the talk because that's how it works with veterinisation. It's easier to mention. But veteran trees basically have all these veteran features that make great habitats for other species. What we need is succession trees that can produce those habitats before our current veterans fall over and start to die. So we had 3 years ago, 6 large beech, 2. Basically, we had a large storm a couple of years ago that took out 6 of our ancient beech all in one go, and it made it very apparent to us that we're so many storms away from losing a large proportion of our ancient trees. And so we have to prepare now to speed up the process of providing those habitats, which is why veteranisation comes into it. So for those who don't know, veteranisation is the process of mimicking wear and tear on trees in order to provide those habitats ahead of time. So for instance, this is a torn out branch, typically would have been created by storms, so branch breaking a storm. That was created by tree surgeons, Springwood tree surgeons, if anyone cares. Did a very nice job for us. This one is mimicking deer and other large mammals rubbing up against the tree. It's hard to tell. This is actually a long section of wood that has been cut out of the tree, the back cut off to create a cavity, and then the front back on, and it's got 2 slits in it. So that is a barbastal bat roost. So we recently found at Clumber a new potential population of barbastal bats. Just had flyover records so far, haven't we? But we're hoping for roosting records soon. And by doing this, we're mimicking the habitats that trees would have developed naturally through decay over time. And then the final one, this must have taken the most of a day to do. It's a lightning strike finishing with wear at the bottom of the tree. So slits like that are great for different types of bats and birds and stuff. And so these habitats can be home to loads of species, anything from microorganisms, fungi, insects, birds, bats, small mammals. And so if we have a tree fall over and there isn't a succession tree nearby, especially for the species that don't have a long distance to travel, so microorganisms, fungi, insects and stuff, there's no habitat for them to go to, and basically they'll become extinct, and the speed we're losing trees at compared to what we've got to replace them is quite fast, so we'll have to speed the process up. So this is typical veterinisation work that we've done for several years now. I think we've done it 4 times on site with different tree surgery companies, so the other one being Anderson's has done a lot of the work for us. This is physical tree veterinisation, I would call it. We are physically harming the tree to mimic those things. We'll go to the next slide. This is new. We haven't tried this before, and it's quite exciting for me anyway. I don't know if anyone else was excited. I was walking around happy. This is inoculation. This is something we've done in conjunction with Cardiff University. So they put out a note to lots of landowners asking if anyone was able to get involved in an inoculation trial. So this is what we call small and large dowel inoculation. So basically this is one of our volunteers drilling holes in the tree. This is the small dowel, so that's what he's putting in here. So he's drilled 9 holes, but there's actually 27 dowel in there, so that's typical joiner's dowel. So what are they, like an inch long? But there's 3 of them in each hole going lengthwise into the tree. So there's 27 dowels here. And this is large dowel, so those were about 1 inch wide each, I think 6 inch long, and therefore about 20 centimetres apart. These, as you can see, are very, very close together, so only a couple of centimetres between each of them. And what happened is, don't ask me how they did this, but Cardiff University have managed to put Fistula hepatica, which is beefsteak fungus, into these dowels. I don't know how they did it. And so, yeah, it's basically embedded with this fungi. I put it into the trees. And the idea is that it's quite a tight fit, so it should be touching all around the edge all the way through that hole with the dowel back to back. So you're basically plugging the hole like it was wood that was always there. And beefsteak fungus, which I'm going to refer to because I don't like using Latin, it is a heart rot fungi. So the idea is it decays the fungi from the centre of the tree, which would happen normally in trees over time. Usually they have good growth on the outside. If you let them get past mature and don't cut them down for commercial use, they'll always get rotted in the middle. This speeds up that process slightly and opens it up for things like insects, microorganisms, other fungi. If these cavities from within the tree were then to join up with damage from outside, you would also open it up for birds and bats and other species such as that. So we're choosing young oaks. You usually do veterinisation on semi-mature to mature, that sort of stage. You don't want them to be so young they'll die from shock. But if you choose too old, you need like 50 years for this stuff to take effect. So if you choose it too old, you might be too late. So we've got young trees, and each of this trial was done with a comparative tree nearby as a control feature. So I've marked up 2 trees in every location. We did this 20 odd times, and then we'll be monitoring it over the next 10 years. This is block inoculation, so similar sort of premise. The blocks are again imbued with fistula hepatica, and then you stack them, and you can't tell from these photos, but the grain of that wood goes in the same direction as the grain of the tree. So hopefully it'll suck water up and it'll bring all the nutrients through the same way it would as usual. This has just become part of the tree now. So this is one of our rangers cutting the hole very carefully. Again, filling it full of that. And then this is the interesting bit, because you don't want any gaps. You have to take some cardboard, fill the gap in front of the blocks with the cardboard so that you've got it's filled all the way to the front, and then you put the front of the bit you've cut out back on again. So again, similar sort of premise, but much larger area, much larger cavity used. And the university are doing this just to see if there's one type that provides a better system than the others, which again, they're going to monitor over the next 10 years. I don't think you'll see much difference in the first 5, if I'm honest. It usually takes a while with these things. But I'm pretty excited about it, because most of the stuff we've done is physical on the outside, really obvious. This is on the inside, and it's going to be really interesting to see just how much it might speed up some of these mechanisms. So a lot of fungi jumps in when there's already a bit of decay forming, and it goes, here's my opportunity. We might just be getting there early by doing things like this. So yeah, new and exciting, and it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. Anything else about veterinisation? No, I think that's it. Any questions? Any others?
You just go back to 1889 map.
There we go.
So, the landscape of Clumber now is, like I said, more wooded than it's ever been in its history. Trees, landscape, view lines, it's that balancing act between right place. So, when you look at the modern day map of Clumber, it looks different to what that does at the moment. The northern, western and southern boundaries all leased out to the Forestry Commission, a 150-year lease, where it should be very scalloped edge woodlands, which led into view lines towards the house. The landscape roads, paths led to heritage trees, feature trees, and through the decline of the Duke of Newcastle and the early years of the National Trust, the park was allowed to scrub over, or commercial conifers were planted. And as part of the process for buying Clumber, 7,500 trees were felled, big oaks, big chestnut, big beech. So we've lost a generation of trees. Where we need to get back is through the working of pasture and veterinisation, is to create a feature set of interesting trees for wildlife and biodiversity. The trees we've got now are declining, so the beech are falling over, like Carrie says, with storms. The disease and failure of big beech that's 200 years old is significantly high. So we're looking at what is best for climate change and the future trees. If you came to the last bag, Adrian Dutton, who's an ecologist from EMEC, he just finished some surveys for deadwood inverts for us, and he was looking at the more ornamental side of our tree collection rather than the historic oaks, chestnut, birch, and we've got a friendly competition between us and Sherwood and RSPB to see who's best. Our collection of deadwood inverts on those parkland, ornamental trees surprised Adrian for what species he found and the relationship those insects had with the trees. So even the ornamental ones are valuable for wildlife, and with climate change going forward, a lot of our invertebrate assemblages will need other trees to survive, and the rich tree heritage we've got on the estate can provide that, but also for succession planting. We know that is roughly what we want the park to look like, so it gives us good building blocks to create bigger grazing paddocks, like with the large herbivores. One of my colleagues, Carl, who's here today, wants to see bison across Clumber. It'd be interesting with some dog walkers. And bigger grazing units. So again, on landscape scale, that we're lucky that the National Trust Act is that's in for us forever and the nation. So what we do to manage, create a best home for nature, ecology, people, that green space is that nice mix of habitats and a resource for visitors, public and wildlife as well.